All right, guys, welcome to Optimizing Forward, where we discuss all things optimize related, and where our objective is to live the best life possible. So, I'm gonna make this a pretty short live stream here for you guys. I wanted to make a live stream yesterday, and it was about this thought that I was having. I was like, I had a friend of mine who was kind of like complaining or some shit, like, oh, blah blah blah, life is tough and all this shit. And I was like, well, that's cool and all, but what's with all the complaining, right? So I don't know why I want to make this video, but I wanted to make it. And pretty much like what I noticed was when I was talking to him, I was like, I already kind of shared my perspective on what you should do. So it's like it's either you do something about it or you do nothing about it, right? And it's like I was noticing he just kept going. Like I'm like, bro, these are the things you can do. This is what you can choose not to do, and that's it, right? And it's kind of interesting because if you think about it, it's like you know, he's just like not choosing to do the things that will help him, or he is just being lazy, whatever that is, right? So one of the things that's kind of interesting, right, is at some point I just told him, like, look, man, you can kind of just do whatever you want within the law, right? Not harming anybody, not breaking any rules. For the most part, you can basically do everything you want as long as you can pay for it and pay for your minimum expenses. No one really cares, for the most part, no one really cares what you do. You can do whatever you want. I don't have someone at my door knocking every day and say, hey, Drew, what are you doing? Right? I just do what I want to do because I'm a self autonomous agent, and I decided to make a video that probably no one's going to watch, right? But that's what I want to do, so I'm going to do it. So, um, and I kind of told them, I was like, look, the reality is that like everything is exactly the same, right? Now, what does it mean to say that everything is exactly the same? That's a very interesting thought, right? Everything is exactly the same. Well, but I think there's something we can learn from this, right? Because I think a lot of us think that at some point you'll reach the perfect moment, you'll reach the perfect area, you'll reach the perfect hour, the perfect routine, the perfect this. You never will reach that point. Okay. Now that I'm almost 30, I more so am more cynical than I was when I was 20. And even when I was 20, I was already pretty fucking cynical. Right. Now you don't have to be cynical, but what it means is that like um things in life are very repetitive, right? Like things repeat. There are themes in life. For example, life and death. You are born, you go through childhood, you become a teenager, you become an adult, you kind of just fulfill the role of your parents who then die and go to the ground, and then you will die, and then you'll have another set of kids, and this cycle will repeat until the sun either burns out or human civilization ceases to exist. You understand, like, it's is there a greater meaning in all this? And not really, right? It's just we're just doing stuff and we tell ourselves stories so we can have meaning in our lives, understandably, right? Why would you not want to have meaning in your life? Makes sense. um but there's always this mentality of poor me, right? And I am like so tired of hearing people say poor me all the time. Poor me, blah blah blah, whatever, right? And the reality is that like you can do that, but it's not going to change anything. It's not going to fix anything, and everything will be exactly the same. Okay? And I want to keep hitting that home. Everything is exactly the same. There's only a little variety in the types of things you can do, the types of places, the types of people, but it's more or less exactly the same. If you became a billionaire, right? Like Elon Musk, do you have more variety? Yes. Do you have more freedom? Yes. But it's all basically the same. It's to accomplish a goal, to make money, to help people or to pursue some objective, right? Exactly the same. It didn't change, right? Chess, right? Chess is exactly the same. Every single game is the same as the other game before. You play Fisher random chess, right? People are saying, oh, chess has too much memorization and opening preparation, all this crap. I was like, okay, I'll learn Fisher random. Lo and behold, exactly the same. The back rank pieces are mixed up, but it's basically the same thing, right? The principles don't change. You mate the opponent, you play good moves, and you try to play less bad moves. You go to a job, right? 100 years ago, when you got a job, were you interviewed? No. But was there some type of process by which they interviewed you in some form? Yes. Making friends, same thing. You get to know each other, you talk, you have things in common, you don't have things in common, and then that's pretty much it, right? And then you become friends, and at some point the friends will drift off because either they don't want to be your friend anymore or they want to be your friend anymore, right? And one thing he kept saying was, he's like, oh, these people don't like me, right? Like, that's a common thing, I don't like you, or your personality sucks, or something like that, right? And let's really think about that, right? Seems to be a common problem we all seem to be facing right now. Some people say, these people don't like me, or people are mean, or you're mean, you're too loud, you're too this, you're too that, you're too much on the fringe. Why don't you just get along? You're always interrupting people, right? Just like anything they want to complain about, right? Well, you could just think about it like, well, I suppose those things are true, and I suppose I should work on that, right? But then you can simply tell him the same exact thing. But I also notice that you're too quiet. You don't say a lot. You don't open up. You're kind of defensive. So you notice like this dichotomistic conversation never ends. We always point the finger at one another, but it doesn't really matter. Even if you have the worst personality in the universe does not care if you have a bad personality. The universe is the universe, right? And I want you to think about that. There's a good example of this I used to watch a long time ago by George Carlin. He calls this the great electron, right? And he made a joke about the universe. He basically said, I think the universe doesn't care about anything. I think it's just observing the absurdity of life. So basically, George Carlin was a nihilist. He's like Owlman from the anime Batman versus Owlman. Owlman says it doesn't matter. Owlman is not wrong. It doesn't matter, right? Of course, Owlman in the anime, he ends up killing himself because he took nihilism to its logical end, which is not only does self-preservation he even took it to the end by which he says that self-preservation doesn't even matter, which is kind of silly because, like, if I'm going to die, I might as well enjoy it, right? But these things don't change, right? They don't really vary. There's constants, right? So what does that tell me about living the optimized life and getting to the better life? Well, one thing it should tell you is there is no universal model of how to live life. There is not. Okay. Alexander the Great, for example, conquered all of Persia, India, and he's called the Great, even though he slaughtered hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. And is he remembered? I guess. Does anyone really care? Not really. Does it affect my day-to-day life? No. So therefore, he's irrelevant. And this should free your mind to stop worrying about shit that doesn't really matter. Okay? You need to get out of your own head in thinking that things matter more than they do. If someone doesn't agree with you, for example, it doesn't matter that they don't agree with you. So they don't agree with you. Who cares? Fine. You don't agree with me. If they don't like you, cool. I don't care. Right? You just have to learn to internalize that mentality. So that way you're more uninhibited to live life as you want to live it. A lot of people in their early 20s, for example, are so focused on what other people think, right? But the reality is, at the end of the day, right, no one's going to live your life but you. No one cares about your life but you. So you have to decide for yourself how you want to live life. And it's like some people think like there's like a couple things, right? It's like, do people care? Like people say you shouldn't say that. People don't care. Like, let's understand what that means, right? What does it mean to say that people don't care? Do people care about other people? Yes, we care to a degree, right? We help people, we feed people, but at the end of the day, the reason why people don't care is because they can't care. They're not you. It's not because they don't want to help you. It's just because they can't be you. I'm certain if somebody could impart their discipline onto you at a faster level and make you a better person, they probably would, but they can't. Nobody can, right? And there's this futility to it all that should free you, you know, from constantly going and going and going and going and thinking that the next thought will be the thought that will free you. It never will. It will be the same exact thing. And I told them, I was like, look, man, 80 years from now, there will still be dumb stuff. 1,000 years from now, there's going to be more dumb stuff. Like, think about the extinction of the dinosaurs. Let's think about how dumb that is, right? You have these big species of apex predators who didn't ask to be made or to be born, and they live for like 65 million years, some insane amount of time. Then a big freaking rock the size of Mount Everest hit into the Yucatan Peninsula and killed 75% of all life in one single moment. It had the power, I think, like a billion Hiroshima bombs, right? So, like, you'd be like, well, Drew, that's not dumb. I think it's kind of dumb, like all those animals just died for pretty much no reason. There was no purpose to it. There was no cause to it. There was just a big rock that just so happened to align with the earth, and it just went boom and it killed everything, right? There was no deeper meaning to it. There was no nothing. It was just meaningless death, right? Mindless death, I might add. The same thing with like when people get murdered. Some people get killed for no freaking reason. It's stupid, but it's just what it is, right? There's no deeper thought to it, right? Some people will ask, well, what's the deeper thought to this? What is the intention? Or, and it becomes kind of silly. Sometimes people kill other people because they're idiots, right? Well, why are you an idiot? Because he wasn't thinking. And then you ask him, why weren't you thinking? I was like, I don't know. How do you not know? And then you keep asking more questions, but like at some point you need to stop, right? You need to stop asking questions. There doesn't need to be a deeper reason to everything. And even then, that deeper reason that you think is important will have changed nothing about your life. Okay. Why does divorce happen? Or why does this happen? Why does that happen? Right. We can always ask more whys, but it doesn't increase the quality of your life. The only thing that really does is the actions you take. Okay. You want a better marriage? You have to put more time in. You want to be better at your job? You have to learn more and perform better. Simple as that. If you don't, you get fired. Simple. Does that make sense? And this is why I'm very opposed to like arguments, right? For me to argue with you is basically a waste of time. I can argue, I can say what my point is, I can be as articulate as possible, I can convey, but all the words in the world haven't changed a single thing about the situation. And that is something I think a lot of us struggle with. We think that we can just convince our way to the solution. We think that if we change how we describe something to ourselves, it's going to change something. It's not going to change anything. Okay. It's just like in chess, guys. It's exactly like chess. It's either you play the best move or chess basically tells you, fuck you, right? It says, fuck you, or play a better move. That's it. Like, and then even when you're like the best in the world, you still suck, right? That's life. Even when you think you finally arrived, you still get destroyed, right? Like, it was kind of interesting because I was watching a video of this chess grandmaster getting destroyed by stockfish, right? Just clobbered him. And he studied chess for like 30 years. And then he had this look on his face. He's like, wow, I still suck at chess. And I'm like, yeah, you still suck at chess. Um, so yeah, guys, I guess that's gonna be my final thought here, is it doesn't matter. As cliche as that sounds, if you're worried about something, just say it doesn't matter. And it's not like I'm suggesting you stop caring about things. I'm just saying just stop placing so much cognitive importance on things that are fleeting in the grand time scales of 40 to 100-year lifespan. In 100 years, guys, all of us are going to long be gone. All of us are going to long be dead. This YouTube channel at some point, for example, will eventually die. Then the question is, well Drew, why will this YouTube channel die? Well, because I'm going to die at some point, right? So that means in the next, from 2025 to 2100, at some point, I'm either going to stop making videos or I'm going to say, hey, this doesn't make any sense anymore. Or YouTube could cease to exist. And these videos will exist forever in these computers that nobody will watch. There'll be like this old computer hard drive. Someone's going to try to look at this video and they'll be like, who's this guy named Gonzalez? Who's that person, right? And then I'm going to talk at them thinking I'm making money or something like that, and nothing ever happened. Think about how ridiculous that is. And it didn't matter much anyways, right? But that's not the reason why we try, right? And then that's the positive thought I'm going to tell you, right? It doesn't matter, but that's not the reason why we stop trying. That's not the reason why we try, right? And you'll be like, well, Drew, why do things not matter, but why must we try? Well, guys, the reason why we try, at least why I try, is because I think it makes life interesting, right? As long as I'm trying something, life is interesting. And for the time I'm here, I would like to try a lot of different things, and we'll see where we go with these things, right? And then at some point, the show will come to an end, right? As unhappy as I will be to leave this earth, I think everyone is probably scared of death, right? I think you'd be lying to say you're not, but you know, I think that's the beauty of life, right? The beauty of life is that at some point everything comes to an end. Everything. Everything that has ever lived will end, right? Hulk Hogan, passed away. I think even he knew that Hulkamania would end, right? It just doesn't last forever. You could be a billionaire, be a millionaire. You could be fighting over 3 divorces on the last day before you died, and you're telling all your friends, I'm getting divorced. My family doesn't love me, or ain't the worst news in the world, whatever. You got stage 4 osteosarcoma, and you just die, and it's just over, right? Now, that thought should free you to do whatever it is you desire. Anything you want to do, I suggest you do it, because at some point, you're not going to keep waking up every day, right? Eventually, at some point, whether you die on accident or somebody kills you or you get a health ailment, you will die. Okay, let me repeat that. You will die, so you should probably make the most of the time that you have. Now, do I think a lot about this episode? Not really. Am I aware of it? Yes, I'm very aware of it. And I think that should free you, at least at a minimum, to live life authentically. Because if you're always worrying about the world, you're worrying about all this pressure and all these people and all these expectations, are you really free? Are you really doing what it is you want to do? And that's the question I'll leave you with. Ask yourself that. Am I doing what I want to do? If not, what do you need to do what it is you want to do? If you are doing what it is you want to do, is there anything else you would like to add on to that? That's all I have for you guys for optimizing forward. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit the bell for notifications. Thank you guys.